Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on Pineapple Podcast. My name is Matt. We have Tyler, Dave, and Josh in the back. And today I'm excited with the guest that we have with us. So I first got to know this guest as Annie from the Heart. From the very first conversation that I ever had with her, I wanted to spend more time to be able to just have a conversation with her to get to know her a little bit more. So today I'm absolutely proud that we got to sit down for a couple hours, talk about life, talk about where she came from, where she is now, and where things are going. And I'm super proud to have her on. We're all proud to have her here. And Annie, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Cue the music.
So one of the things that to me, when I found out that I was going to have the opportunity to talk to you, my heart just exploded. And I was incredibly, like I mentioned, I was incredibly nervous because I thought, man, I could just cry. And there's lots of reasons why.
You can cry.
There's lots of stuff that'll probably come up in this conversation that just made me really excited to chat with you. And I talked to Sarah, my wife, and I was like, do you have any questions? And we came up with some questions that we wanted to chat with you about. And I started realizing that the first introduction to who you were, which I was mentioning to you off camera, was getting to know Annie from the Heart. And it was interesting because then now fast forward to thinking I have the opportunity to get to know you. I didn't even know your last name because I'd always referred to you. Everybody had always referred to you as Annie from the Heart. And today I'm excited to meet you and to get to talk to you, to Annie Christiaens, and to actually spend time with you and to open up a bit more. And I'm really honored that you would take the time to be brave, to chat with me. And every story that I've ever heard of yours just excites my soul. And I usually get home and I want to share it with my girls. And then my wife gets excited and then she wants to come down. And to me, it's just been an honor to get, to have an opportunity to meet somebody like you in my life. So
Thanks, Matt. Wow.
Yeah.
And what do you say back to someone that says that to you?
No, but it was just dawned on me that it's interesting because one of the things that you and I've talked about is we tend to focus so much on what we do. And we can become so wrapped up into those things that becomes what we think is who we are. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting because if somebody said well, who is Annie? I could tell them all sorts of things about the gut feeling that I get when I'm around you, the peace of as soon as you even enter the heart. Let's just talk about the heart for a second. When you walk in, there's peace. That's huge to me. And also one of the big things, like I mentioned, the first time I came in, and just even in your eyes, the honesty, the transparency, the authenticity, the things that I constantly am preaching all the time, you just emulate it. You just are it. And so I wanted to get an opportunity today to just chat with you and go back for my, even just for fun for me. I don't even know where you grew up. I don't know anything about your story of who you are as just who you are. Mm-hmm. So I was curious, where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up? Well, until I was 3, I was in Burnaby, I believe. Fraser Heights, somewhere over there. And then what they call South Surrey now, but it was Cloverdale, 184th and 29A. I grew up in a big heritage farm.
Oh, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have chickens or anything?
No chickens. Hated birds.
Really?
Yeah. Cows, beef cows. We had some Highland cows.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was equestrian. That was my sport. Show jumping.
Oh, my goodness. My girls are going to freak out.
Yeah.
No way.
So that was my life until I was 16, 17. Grew up on a farm, living that life. I feel like I grew up in a different world than my generation. Like, I really, truly feel like I grew up in a world 30 years before my time.
Oh, my goodness. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is my daughter, so she's turning 8, and Spirit is her favorite.
Yes.
Spirit is I hate to say it, but I fall asleep singing Spirit's Riding Free song, and I wake up singing it. My daughter, who's 3, sings it in my ear from 5 a.m. on.
Tyler put the theme song in right now.
They sing it all the time, and it's awesome. It's adorable, and we have it cranked in the stereo when we're driving around together, and they absolutely love it. We'll go out of our way to drive and get an ice cream and then go sit and look at farms with horses. Like, they're really into horses. And we used to have horses across the street from us, and it was just glorious. We got to watch a little one be born, and it was so cool. And so actually for her 8th birthday, we are surprising her with taking her. We have her getting the opportunity to go watch. She's really nervous. We told her this morning, and she is incredibly nervous all of a sudden now that it's real, that she could be riding a horse for her birthday.
Okay.
But that is unbelievable.
Yeah. I think when I was 5, I started, so really young.
That's awesome. So the whole, like, it's interesting because I was wondering how you ended up in Cloverdale. So Cloverdale's been your hood.
Yeah, it's actually even a cooler story how we got the house. I mean, it's just stories from my parents, but my dad had custom built a beautiful home, like no reason to move. Apparently I was always nervous to be in my bedroom because it was so big. That was my big
Wow.
issue when I was a child. Oh my God. And then I guess my mom took a wrong turn one day and ended up driving past the farmhouse, and she just had to have it. But it was disgusting.
No way.
It was like Dad had to reno the whole thing. There was even forks shoved into the doors and bent into door handles.
Oh my goodness.
We're talking rough shape.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So was he into construction or just a...
Yeah. He was a steel worker. Well, he had a company. So he did a lot of the skyscrapers downtown, and then did our houses on the side.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, there's 3 other siblings. A brother and my sister are half siblings, and then I have a full brother.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, there's a couple things I'm going to look down, but there's a couple ones that I wanted to ask you because I had asked my girls questions as well, and I told them that I would ask you. So I'm going to ask, one is favorite place that you've traveled?
Favorite place that I've traveled? Okay, so I'm not a huge traveler. I'm a homebody.
It's what, you know what's interesting is as I wrote it out, I was like, I really have a feeling that she's a homebody, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Like if I could close my eyes and tell you where I wanted to be right now, it would either be on a sandy beach, like hearing the ocean, or like literally in the middle of the field with a bunch of animals.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So I'm going to say Mexico, just on a beach. I don't really.
That's like the default answer?
Yeah, I don't. That's where I'm happy. I like to hear the waves.
Yeah.
So you could probably put me on almost any safe beach and I'd be happy.
No, I agree. It's funny because my wife and I were talking about how we just can't wait. Like we have a family cabin in Point Roberts, and we were just saying how we cannot wait for once the borders are open, we're allowed to be able to go with just our family, even though we're spending our time with just our family.
Totally.
But just to be able to go and walk the beach and not have to.
That's it. It's more about landscape for me. Like I don't really have a place I want to go or like love being. It's just outside.
That is awesome. Yeah, same here. What did you dream becoming when you were a child?
I wanted to be a police officer.
No way.
Well, of course I wanted to be like a professional horseback rider. That was what I thought I would be, a trainer.
So did you do, okay, don't mean to cut you off, but is it dressage?
No, I did show jumping, so hunters and jumpers.
So show jumping is when it's like that gnarly, like, holy, I can't believe that horse is jumping like that crazy, the bars that are set up?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to watch. That's right by our house, Thunderbird.
Yeah, Thunderbird. I showed there a ton.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So dressage, we watched.
It's all flat work discipline. Yeah.
I have to admit, like, we have Friday night pizza nights where we make pizza and we sit down and we watch. So the new thing is the girls want to watch dressage because it came up on Spirit.
Okay.
Well, on Spirit, it looked awesome.
Sure.
And then I saw it in real life and did not get it.
Yeah, maybe it's
did I just miss something?
Yeah, it's probably like what I think of golf. I'm like, wow, lame shot. Even it took so much skill to do that.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it must, because like in Spirit, it's doing crazy moves. And I was like, why isn't it doing anything crazy? And needless to say, that was an hour of
and
my
maybe
life
you were
I'm not
watching
gonna
the
get back.
wrong dressage.
Oh, this is the World Championship. We were watching I thought I was missing
athletes,
something.
The power,
I know.
That's so upsetting.
I'm so sorry to those people that are listening. I tried. I really did try.
So much talent.
Oh my goodness.
So much discipline.
That's awesome.
And so much power. Like that's 1,000-pound animal under them.
I know. That's actually what scares me.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing about horses that freaks me out is they're just massive.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
So police officer.
Yes, go back to that.
Those were my two things.
That is so cool. Because I was going to ask you, that was like, what's something that you always thought, I want to do that?
Yeah.
Police officer. Would you still want to be a police officer?
No.
No?
No.
She wants to be a wrangler.
Yeah. No.
The park ranger of Cloverdale on her mounted horse.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
That's wild. So how long has it been since you've broken a horse?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember.
I don't even know what that means. I just threw that out there like I'm pretending.
Well, it was just we'd pick the horses that had never been ridden before, and that's where
Weren't you
start.
just terrified though?
Yeah, you kind of fearless. I hate that word, but when you're young, you're kind of fearless.
So, well, now that you're older, What's your biggest fear?
What's my biggest fear? I got to think about that.
Yeah?
I'll come back to
We'll
it.
come back
My
to that
biggest fear.
It would it be easier to lead in with what makes you incredibly nervous?
What makes me nervous? Failure. Failure makes me nervous. I guess you could put fear with failure and nervousness. Babe, what makes me nervous? Letting people down, I guess.
Being late.
Late. Oh my gosh, I cannot be late.
Same.
I will not be late. And like some of my best friends that are listening to this are laughing because I'm that person who will drive to your house and park down the street for 15 minutes because it's way too early. And then I'll drive up 10 minutes early.
That's awesome.
Thank God for good data plans.
Literally.
Right? I'm just gonna scroll
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always been that
up
way.
the road.
Yeah.
We're a funny combo that way.
Always.
So is that something that you grew up with then?
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that I grew up in a family as well. Like my Oma, I'll never forget, because it actually annoyed me as a kid. The fact that we were like, a prime example, my Oma would say, "Okay, guys, we'd like you to come over for dinner. It's at 5:00," which meant you were eating at 5:00. You were sitting at the table, physically putting food in your mouth at 5:00. So she'd worked all day, so the food was hot to be eaten at 5.
Yeah.
Not to arrive at 5, shoot the shit for a little bit, and then, hey, now it's like 6. So it was a very disrespectful thing to to show up late. So I grew up in a family where my dad, like all my sports life, anything that I did, anything, if it was, say, school started at 8, you're there at 7:30.
100%.
And that was just how I grew up. And I sometimes coveted my friends who just sauntered in late and just whatever. And it was like, oh, that must be kind of nice, until I would show up late and be like, oh,
no, it's a respect
this just
thing
feels.
for
And
me.
I did feel like it was very a respect thing. Even now I find myself, yes, Josh, like data plans for sure. I show up to shoots way too early because it's just something that's ingrained in me, that I also know how valuable time is, because like
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is my thing.
I also realize that like with things like Google Maps now that can help me save, like I was mentioning to you, that can help me save 30 seconds that I can spend with my girls.
Yeah.
Everything.
But like also don't trust that, add 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, for sure. Actually, yeah. Google's not that smart. Oh, that's awesome. That's hilarious that you grew up that way, because it's interesting how we're all so different. And I actually realized that, especially too in a situation where you work with other people and they've grown up where it's like being late is not a big deal. I really learned that it was actually in certain relationships I was having, like it was getting in the way, because I was like, holy, like I was like taking it as a huge sign of disrespect towards me.
Yeah.
When in reality, they weren't even thinking of me.
It wasn't intentional.
No.
They're not intentionally doing it, but that's the same. That's how my brain.
Yeah. Can you let go?
Look at me.
I know. You're like ready to roll.
I'm like, I'm worked up, jacked up.
I love it. Okay, this was one. It's funny because I normally am not really wanting to reference, but there's some good ones in here. So anytime I've ever met you, you've always had a huge smile on your face. How do you keep that genuine smile? And here's the trick is that my job as a content creator is, and this is something my wife, and I've talked about this before, something my wife has taught me since, I've worked for her for years. She's been my boss for almost 20 years, is that she is the most phenomenal listener. And so she listens to, and sorry for people that have heard me say this before, but like she listens to what you're saying, to what your body language is saying, to what your eyes are saying, to what your body language isn't saying, to what your words aren't saying. In fact, I've heard people say it can be intimidating, because it's just, to me, it's so intimate and I love it. So the first time I met you, I was talking about that earlier about your eyes. That's the first thing I look at no matter who I meet with, from clients to friends to whoever, is their eyes, because eyes don't lie.
Yeah.
How do you keep that genuine smile? Because your eyes, it's interesting, a smile can be faked, but your eyes can never fake a smile.
When you say that, I kind of have two feelings. I kind of immediately am like, well, maybe you've just come at great times, because I wear my emotion on my face. I can literally feel Tyler pushing down my eyebrows right now, because that's another thing I do, is I express with my eyebrows. So I think a combination of that. You're always visiting me typically at my store, which is a beautiful space. Like how can you not be feeling good there? But I also cry in the front of my store. I laugh. I get grumpy. So I think the key part there is I'm just being genuine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not always smiling. I cry.
Yeah, no, but I think that's partly like where I was going with that is
Yeah.
that's one of the things that like I know like my wife and I admire about you is that it's like being transparent and being authentic. And I know for some people it's like, oh, like sometimes I get worried because I love purposeful conversations. I love diving in, like, you know, after 15 minutes of just shooting the shit, sometimes I'm like, okay, are we going to talk about anything? But I know that, like, you know, not all relationships obviously like can dive deep or this and that and stuff. And it's like, I think you're right. Like when I've come in, I think one of the things that, one of the things that I've appreciated about coming in there is that you have been honest, which is why to me, seeing that genuine smile when you come in, even in a rough day, I think that's one of the cool things is I don't know if it's been a rough day because you are who you've been able to just be yourself.
And I think also, like, I remember that we always say this is you don't know how the other person's day is going either. So many people visit my store on a bad day, which is so beautiful. But I have people that can carry my weight for me and with me. So if I can make that person's day a little bit easier that walks through the door, I'm going to.
I think that's one of the things, obviously, that makes your community so special. And it makes just communities in general special. Because I know that, like, well, I mean, who doesn't want a friend like that?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that there's something else that I've learned too, Matt. As my social presence has grown and as my community has grown, I've also had to guard my time and my space a little bit too. So sometimes if I'm not able to be positive and welcoming, you won't see me on the floor. I mean, I've gone through some pretty devastating things in the last little while. So there are days where I look at the staff, at my beautiful girls, and I'm like, I can't be here today. I'm going home. So it's I hate the word balance. Let's not even go there. But it's just I've just learned how to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to learn. That's one that the word balance is something that I'm trying desperately.
No, it's not a thing. We can talk about balance at some point, but
you can hear my big sigh because it's still my
no,
I'm
there is
struggling
no
with that.
balance.
So, I guess what I was like leading at with that is that you're a good human, and being a good human means feeling all the feelings to me that we have inside. I believe that the feelings that we have inside are meant to be felt, not just, you know, pushed away. I definitely know that growing up, I've shared with the guys that I definitely struggled a lot with what, you know, being a man was supposed to be, being an athlete was supposed to be, being a musician was supposed to be, being a poet was supposed to be, being a dad was supposed to be. And in reality, like, you know, we talked about bravery a little bit earlier. I'm curious your take on bravery because I know that it's like such a thrown around word that it means something different to each one of us. But to me, when I think about, you know, the bravery of what it means to be a good human, it's somebody that, you know, lives their core values out loud, their qualities in action, but also goes with their gut. And the fact that you mentioned that, you know, having like devastating days, first of all, the fact that you're communicating that with your team, well done, because it's something that I strive to, you know, I know that I need to be better with even our team at Search and Rescue is just to communicate my feelings more. I'm so used to working with my wife as my boss where communication is just so easy and it just flows.
She knows what's happening in your life, right?
Exactly. That sometimes I forget, like I've noticed that sometimes I've gotten a little bit quiet with them when things happen. I've even noticed my daughters have called me on it. Like, you know, when I'm getting a bit more stressed, I'll get a bit more quiet and won't say things. Definitely, I am that person that wants to be at home. But when it comes to, like, I really admire the fact that you said that, you know, you said I need to step out, I need to leave. And so that to me is going with your gut, which is bravery. To live your life consciously is something that, like, I admire in people and, like, living a purposeful life. And it's something that for you, like, is that something that, have you always kind of been this person? Like, have you always, is that the right question to ask?
I think that people are always evolving, and I think that
sometimes,
whether it's good or bad, or you're always changing a little bit. So I think I've learned how to do a lot of things. Obviously, that's like life experience. Can you rephrase your question?
Yeah, let me think it. I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Do you want me to use capitals?
You
All
try a different
caps?
voice.
Would that help?
Can I get an A vowel?
Do it in Daffy Duck, please.
Oh my gosh, my dad did the best Donald Duck. Can you do Donald Duck?
I
Can
cannot.
any of the dads here, can you do a Donald Duck?
It's funny. Is it a dad thing? Because now I got to practice.
I hope so.
Oh, crap.
Who was that?
Oh, even better.
That was me.
Babe.
Wow,
dad
that was
does.
really good.
Not bad.
My dad actually
Yes.
does a pretty damn
Yes,
good one
Tom
too.
does a good one.
Okay, so let's just simplify it with going back to bravery. Would you consider yourself a brave person?
See, bravery isn't a word.
I want to just hear your definition, though, because I
Bravery's
think...
Donald Duck walking around with no pants on. That's what I gotta
Yes.
say.
No, bravery isn't a word, really a word that resonates with me. It's not one that, and maybe because immediately I see bravery as a pedestal. Like immediately I'm literally picturing like the first, second, third, and the person that's brave on that first pedestal, and I don't like it. And that's like
That's
not
okay.
good, but
No.
that's what's happening right now.
That's okay. So then your classification of brave would be someone that's superior to others? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. That's definitely not...
I think because we hear like Superman was
I agree.
brave. He was the big brave hero. So
Yeah.
immediately I'm like, I don't want to be Superman.
Yeah. But I guess we could think about, because I know maybe that's why my question was difficult to kind of phrase, was I definitely know that there was things put, like, it's like, well, if you're going to be this person, you have to be this way, and you have to be like that, and you have to, and if you don't fit
Yeah.
into it, then, including probably bravery, it's like, well, this is bravery, right? Like, and okay, I'll use my own experience then, where it's, I would hear a lot where it's like, man up. So
Okay.
if I didn't, so there it is on the little pedestal. And if I didn't match up to whatever those people had considered man up, I wasn't a man. And I definitely struggled with a lot of like, just a lot of stuff growing up where it's like, this doesn't resonate. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But we weren't really in a position when we're younger. We weren't really talking and communicating about
Man
those
up
things.
is
And
like, hey, ignore those feelings that are wrong to have. How
Yeah.
dare you have
Yeah.
those experiences? And it's really, that's not good to like think like, oh, I'm feeling things wrong. Like,
yeah.
what next?
That's where I think that, to me, I'm always curious to hear people's definition of bravery, because again, like, I'm learning as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And immediately my body rejects it. Like I'm like,
Yeah, I'm so curious why, because
yeah.
that's to me
Let's
that's
ask my therapist maybe.
yeah. But no, like, I definitely know that it's something that I've talked a lot about with my daughters, because we talked about it. Something that, like, every day we talk about, like, practicing bravery and curiosity and courageousness and having fun. And we talked about that since she started kindergarten. But one of the interesting thing is I had learned that from Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he talked about living like that and the reasons why. And so I've always kind of talked about that with my daughters and kept them excited, because I really, formal education to me is great, but it's not the be all end all. So I wanted my daughter's first introduction to education to be exciting and something that anytime education of any manner came into play, she would just get excited about that. She'd realize, oh, I'm curious, and then practicing a bit of courageousness and then being brave. And what I meant by being brave was going with her gut. And so the example that I use for me, that when I've ever tried to tell people, is, when you're 16 years old and all your friends have been drinking and they're like, come on, man, like, let's just get in the car. We just need to go to blah, blah, blah's house. And your gut saying, don't do it. And you listen to your gut. That's the bravery I'm talking about, is listening to your gut. I'm not talking about putting somebody up on a pedestal. So to me, when I consider you as a brave person, or I consider my wife as a brave, when I see you guys living out, listening to your gut, I adore it. And in fact, like, I remember when we went traveling, the first time my wife and I went traveling to Europe, I remember telling her, I was like, listen, and I didn't even know what it was called at the time. I didn't even know what, that listening, that little inner voices, whatever you want to call it. But I remember saying, listen, like, I trust your gut. And it's funny, I vividly remember this memory. I trust your gut so much more than mine. If there is ever a moment when we're traveling through anywhere in Europe that your gut says, turn around,
Yeah.
I will never even second guess it.
Yeah.
And luckily we never had to get to that point, but I've always felt that is that little in-tune voice that I've always wanted to work at listening to more, because I think that the times that I have regret in my life, if that's even the right word, regret, is when I didn't listen to my gut, and I should have. Does that make a bit more sense?
Yeah, no, totally.
I think that's a good point, being able to listen to your gut like that, because you get yourself into some trouble when you don't listen to that.
Yeah.
And you got to trust yourself. Like, you've been taking in much more information than you really consciously realize a lot of the times. And that's what your gut feeling really is that, like, okay, I don't know why, but we are not going to eat it. That's just
It's a primal instinct to me. It's as you said, Josh, like, all your receptors have picked up so many environmental factors that maybe you aren't even conscious why you're feeling something.
Exactly.
But your body's like, danger or fear or that's really, I think, what the only emotion your body really reacts from is the fear, right? It's just there to save you. But
Yeah, and to me, being brave is kind of doing something when you still have the fear too. There's a little bit of that aspect, you know.
Yeah, in spite of the fear, you're still going to go through with it because
Like-
you know you have to. and
maybe
you'll be
I see that as resiliency.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great word.
That's a
That's a
word
fantastic word.
that sticks way stronger with me than bravery.
That's cool.
'Cause, yeah, bravery almost comes with, like you said, that moment of like
A badge.
the hero of like
Yeah.
the badge, or you ever see the meme of Obama giving Obama a medal? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and Matt, keep teaching your girls about bravery. I don't mean to flip you
Yeah,
up
but-
upside
No,
down
no,
here,
this is
but-
phenomenal.
Cynical
This
Yeah.
adults version of like,
Yeah.
and maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe we should be celebrating our own personal braveries,
Maybe.
not comparing it to anyone else's. Like my bravery today compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe you'd be like, wow, I've actually come a really
Yeah.
long way on my own journey.
I like what Ned Stark says to Bran Stark in season 1,
I
Game of
can't wait
Thrones,
for
episode
this.
1, when when he says, "Dad, I'm too." I don't think he actually says "Dad," but he's
Lying already.
Here we go.
Yeah.
along the lines of he's too scared to be brave, and Ned says, "The only time one can be brave is when you're scared." And I was like, "Oh, I like that."
Ooh, that's so deep.
Yeah, thanks,
That's a
Ned.
good one.
Thanks, Ned.
I definitely am the first to say that I am one, and this is one thing that I appreciate about even having to have conversations with not only you but with like Tyler, Dave, and Josh, because I think my feelings out loud, and when I share conversations with people, and especially this one thing I absolutely love about my wife is that she's my best friend. First and foremost, she's my best friend, and I've always been a lifelong learner. I enjoy pushing myself and learning, and I'm the first one to say that I'm definitely not very intelligent, which is why I'm constantly seeking out
Whoa.
intelligence.
Okay.
No. I definitely know that I have a good memory, so regurgitating things is definitely something I can do.
Sure.
So you may think it's me saying it, but I just can't remember who the
interesting.
quote was that.
Yeah.
But I know that.
Yeah, but that's like our shared unconsciousness also, and you should talk to Anna when you guys have her in all about that, about how we all just share ideas and thoughts, and we hold on to what we were meant to hold on.
Oh, that's cool.
Go
yeah.
into that. You should
Yeah.
write that down.
Well, we got
it's
it now.
really
I'll remember that.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll remember
But
it.
it's interesting because one of the things that I love about this opportunity and this platform to be able to have, you know, a podcast where people can watch it on YouTube or listen to it is that I say things, and I'm hoping our guests feel the freedom to say things as well, where I don't know the answer. I may be actually spitballing it out there because I'm super curious to hear. Like, I love that you've come back with bravery in a different way, because to me it's like, oh, that's so cool to hear it another way. There is no, this is the only way that bravery can be taken. I think we do mistake bravery a lot, and I think that's where in my life, let's just go back to skateboarding. So, you know, people be like, oh, you're so brave to like do that like 10 stair on your skateboard. I was like, what are you talking about? Like in my mind, I was like, that's like not brave at all. And they're like, that's crazy. Hey, I'm like, actually it's calculated. I started with 1 and then I went to 2, then 3, then 4. And I
You
worked.
lost me, Matt. Slow down.
Yeah. I started with 1 stair on my skateboard. Then when I could do that, I went to 2 and then 3 and then 4, and then I made my way all the way up to 10. So where people were looking and seeing 10 as being brave,
Right.
in my mind, I was like, it's calculated. I did 9. 10 is only 1 more. I'm not just getting on it and doing 10 at once. And then the people that were like, well, I'm brave. I'm going to do 10 the very first time. I was like, you're an idiot. And they'd get hurt. And
Right.
because it wasn't about skill or know-how. It was just, I'm just going to be an idiot and try and impress people.
Right.
So that's not the bravery I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Or people say things like, oh man, that guy just, you know, did blah, blah, blah. And it's always about do. It's do makes you brave. I'm talking about who you are
Yeah.
makes you brave. And so I'm curious, because I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm actually just super curious, because if we looked at just what people did to consider them brave, I've never actually thought of that before.
I think being brave too is like sticking to like not kind of going with the flow if you don't agree with what's happening, right? Like you go into a place and everyone's
Risk,
you know,
baby. You're taking risks.
Yeah, but it's
Standing up for your morals.
stand up for your morals. Yeah,
Yeah.
like me and Annie disagree on some stuff, but
No.
she holds it right against me for sure. She stands up, and then I'm like, okay, yep,
That's
that
awesome.
sounds good.
Yeah, but that's just because I'm strong. That doesn't make me brave.
Brave enough to be strong.
Okay. Next topic.
Oh my God. Brave enough. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Do you have like a last word thing going on? Like one of you has.
I
something
was
to
just,
say,
I
like-
wanted to kind of let it go to see who's going to let
Does that have
it
another
be.
comeback? It's your serve, Annie. He served you. You know, he served. one
No,
back.
I'm just gonna like shut that down.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to change it up. If you could go back to your 16-year-old self,
Oh my gosh.
tell you something, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
It's
Buy
gonna
Bitcoin.
be okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be okay. My sweet, sweet 16-year-old self.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually I don't remember most of my years from about 12 to 17. I have very few memories.
Can you elaborate?
Trauma was saving me. It was
Okay.
protecting me and
Mhm.
blocking my brain. And I really like my friends, my lifelong friends will tell me things, that events I missed or whatever, and I have no recollection.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
actually had just been reading a book by the holistic psychologist that's just been like, she's phenomenal, and it's amazing because found out about her a couple of years ago, I think it was, and like literally is my daily, and for Sarah and I, it's kind of our daily, and that was one of the things that came up because my wife is the same thing where she's just doesn't remember, and it's interesting because when we use the word trauma too, like I remember being really nervous to use the word because I always felt like, well, I
There
grew up.
wasn't enough trauma. You know, like
Yeah.
trauma's not the same as
Exactly.
someone else's trauma,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
you
and so I
wanna be
just was like very aware that that word is a very fragile word.
It's a
and
big
I-
word,
it
and I
is.
don't use it lightly.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you thought it was fragile, I think it has a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
what I see
big
with trauma,
word.
like,
Yeah.
it's
Okay,
a
you're right.
weighty
You
word.
win. That's
No,
a better
it's-
one.
It's a fragile weight too, because
Yeah.
It
it's
can be
both.
traumatic in itself.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to throw. I remember reading that part. It's interesting. This is the first book. Like I think it's my fourth book this year, and I would really have been wanting to read more, and especially like I've always loved self-exploration books, the books that you can never recommend to people because they'll come back to you and say like, "What's wrong with you?"
Sure.
Or they'll be like, "This means absolutely nothing to me," or "You're
Okay.
just listening to sorcery." But I love them. I always have. And this book is one with the holistic psychologist that I read literally 2 pages, and then I have to sit for like a week
Yeah,
and a half.
those are the good ones.
And I'm like, this is unbelievable. And one of those moments was that where it was reading about just, like even just the forgetting of things, not even forgetting things, but blocking them out. And it was something that to me, you instantly, like I think of myself and then I think of other people. And then I have to be very cautious because then the empathy takes over. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be reading this book for myself. So I had to kind of like, because I've
You
definitely.
gotta protect yourself for sure.
Yeah, and I've shared with the guys that that's one thing that I've struggled a lot with in my life is writing from that empathetic place. Is that my entire life of like being a musician, that's always where I've written from, and it's like it actually scares me to go back to writing to that place because of the fact that it just took me to some dark places in my life that
Yeah.
I'd never been.
Yeah.
I'm very, very thankful now that we have like vocabulary and ways of describing those feelings, and it's something that I'm super proud of. Is that I feel honored that like, you know, the women in my life, the girls in my life, my girls are very open to sharing their feelings and teaching me about their feelings. And something that you're also very, very good at is sharing your feelings. It's one thing that I admire a lot about you is that you do that with your community. You do it very openly and very transparently without fear. I think it's so awesome. The reason why I asked you about going back to your 16-year-old self is because I was curious, have you always been a lifelong learner the way that you are now? Have you always been that type of a person?
I have always had amazing people in my life. So I could say that I've always been learning for sure. I mean, whether you have amazing people or not, but I think you're talking more about the skills that I have.
Yeah.
I've had so many teachers. I mean, I lost mom just before my 12th birthday, and so my dad was a single parent. And they say it takes a village to raise a child, but like I was really raised by a community. So I had so many people teaching me things and loving me and supporting me. And it was awful and beautiful all at the same time. But you can't help but absorb, especially during those years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's wow.
So consciously learning, no, I didn't know, but I know that these abilities I have came from somewhere, right?
Yeah, I guess because I think about it in my life about how, yeah, just I think back to my life, like growing up in my family. I had a great family. We're all so different. But just I have always had a desire like that kind of, there's got to be more, right? There's like, and just also seeking, not just, I would always say to the girls that, my little girls, like, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And they'll say happy. And I was so excited to hear that. Like, but there's more to it. Like, it was like purpose and meaning encompassed in that happiness. And then I was just thinking back to my life, and somebody, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they're just, it was cool to hear them like actually say, like, it's been neat to see you always continuing growth in your life. And I never thought of it that way, because to me, I've always just been curious. Like, I was, just why am I feeling this way? And why do I act this way? Why do I respond this way? Why do I have triggers here? And like, just always curious, and then always very into, maybe that's the problem solver in me as well. Is actually, that's one thing that definitely is that this book is brought up. Sure. I'm not as far ahead as I thought. There's a lot of things. This one I do is an ebook. Yeah. Yeah.
In a British accent.
Yeah?
I enjoy right now Present Self podcasts for sure. It really depends what stage of life I'm in, I think. And that might sound a little crazy, but like if I am on vacation, I want a paper book.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
if like my life right now, I don't need conversations going really deep and big, so I'm listening to podcasts in my car to just learn new things, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of just really depends on the stage of life.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, I do, and I don't know if I want to like say this because I've never actually looked into him as a person, but I do really enjoy Joe Rogan's podcasts, mostly because I get to meet so many cool people through it and hear so many stories.
Yeah.
So this is not me endorsing Joe Rogan himself.
I honestly would never have guessed you'd have said Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to listen to Joe a ton and kind of tapered off as I went.
Yeah.
But he definitely is the one that got me really interested and excited into podcasts, into long form podcasts where you get a chance to.
It's just the range of people that he's able to connect with that I'm really enjoying right now.
Same here. It's actually got me into Dak Shepard too, is the fact that.
Yes. The armchair expert.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I loved getting into because the fact that they've got a platform where it allows them to sit down and have a purposeful conversation with somebody that is way out of my reach. But I'm so curious and I love that they've asked questions, and some of the questions I'm like, oh, I would have loved to have asked that. And it's neat to hear who they are, a bit more of who they are.
Even I was fascinated. He had a rock climber on, and she was talking about how when they do day-long or week-long climbs, how they have to poop in a bag. And I was like, I never thought of that.
I never thought of that.
Right?
That's something that it's interesting. I'm not really fearful of doing any of those kinds of things.
Did we think we were?
I did actually. That was like that.
I know. Okay, but I don't want to dive into poop in a bag. And my point is, I just like to learn and hear everyone's experience.
It is cool.
Yeah.
No, it is awesome. I think that's also too why it's neat to find out why, even finding out about you about horses. I would have never known that.
Yeah.
And
that was
and you're
a
right.
huge part of my life. You
live
guys
with that,
laugh.
eh?
I just ignore it. I literally go oh gosh, and then I'm done. I've moved on.
Yeah. No, but that's something that to me what's exciting is you're right. Like when I come visit you, because your office or your work is right across the street from mine. And coming in, you're right, you're at work. And I've never asked you about, hey, by the way, do you like horses? Yeah. Did you grow up with horses? So that is one of the cool things you're right about podcasts that I've loved is being able to have the opportunity to listen to people that I've always admired. On the way here, I was listening to Smartless, and they were with a female astronaut, and it was so freaking cool because they were talking about how their heads get blown up and why their heads get blown up a little bit. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. There's gravity pulling your blood down. It's not doing that in space, hence it's going up. I'm like, and then instantly I was like, I had to pause because I've learned to pause them because I tend to I'll just drift off into my own thoughts for a little bit. Yeah. And I was thinking I don't think I could deal with the headaches for very long because there's got to be crazy headaches there. But anyways, going back to what Josh, you asked, I love reading definitely on my iPad or iPhone. And the reason for that is because I can pick it up and go anywhere. So when I show up, because I'm always early, that's what I'm reading. And I can pick, and the other reason is because I can highlight things. And one of the things that I did recognize, I didn't read one book throughout my entire school career ever. But my memory has always worked that if a teacher were to write it down or write on a board, I could take a snapshot of it and remember. So I recognize that early on. So things that mean a lot to me, especially in books, I'll highlight them, which is hilarious because if I'd show you guys the books that I read, almost every single word is highlighted, but I'll remember them. And that's kind of why I like it, is that I can take it from any device and just pick up where I've left off and not have to worry about bringing another piece with me. Honestly, I am only like 42% in. Yeah, no, and it's taken me a lot, and there's been a lot of tears, a lot of conversations with my wife. I definitely feel bad, so sorry, Sarah, if you actually listen to this. And I feel terrible that I'm also the type of person that when I learn it, I got to read it to her. So in the mornings while like we're just sitting there having tea, I'm like, "Oh, sweetheart, this is amazing," and she's so patient and kind.
So patient.
Yes.
Good job, Sarah.
Yeah. Now that I say it out loud, I realize how I should probably dial that back. It is. It is, and it's also too, I think that I'm also very proud of her. It is. 6 a.m, tea, and there we go. I'm diving into the holistic psychologist. Hey man, that's life. Like with my girls, they're ready to hit the ground and they hit it running. So I've learned that like both Sarah and I we would put on the news just to kind of like, especially at the beginning of COVID, we put the news on the iPad. We're like, oh, it's just small. We'll just kind of watch that a little bit while the girls are just playing, reading or whatever. And it just ruined our days. So I was like, well, that's got to end. So now I'm diving into self-exploration books first thing in the morning. And but I have noticed that it definitely is something that, oddly enough, it has like taken weights off of my shoulders when it comes to even how I handle the day, just to see that I can only control myself. I can't control others. So I need to get a little bit better at doing that. So if I were to ask you what's one of the most important things in your life right now and why?
One of the most important things in my life. I don't want it to be, it's not going to be a person. Like,
doesn't it be whatever you want?
Well, it was, oh gosh, I want to cut this out. It was my dog. That's why I'm like struck. I'm just like picturing my sweet little babe. So that kind of
I'm so sorry
shook
about that,
me.
by the way.
I'm just like, I don't have anything.
No, you can. It's
one of
okay, but you can take away the right now.
Yeah, okay.
You can talk about, because honestly, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's something to us. Like I still have not gotten over our dog, and that was 4 years ago. So
one of the most important things, it's my people. I can't even go further than that, really. And it's so many different people for so many different reasons. And I can't even say this person, like there's so many people in my life, and they're always, as I said earlier, there always has been, like they're almost just kind of part of, I feel like they're my limbs. It's kind of weird.
No. One of the things that I wanted to do was talk to you about being a woman entrepreneur, because that's something that excites me.
Why did I growl? Ugh. Because it's exhausting.
Is that what you did?
Yeah. Because I'm tired. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Question.
So
sorry.
If I said, what's exhausting about it?
What's exhausting about it? Making space for myself. Just everything's exhausting about it. And I can't say if all of it is because I'm a woman. I can't say how much of it is because I'm a small business, not a large business. There's so many things that go into that. But conversations that are hard, I feel like aren't hard for everyone. So it's exhausting.
Can you elaborate a bit more on that for me? Because that makes me very curious when you say something like that.
Yeah, like, it's a little bit hard. I'm trying to like protect people while still, it's hard because it's such a small town. What do I say?
No, I'm curious because I know that like I wrote down a bunch of, I have girls. And to me, I grew up with older sister, younger sister, cousins were girls. I had cousins that were boys as well, but like I hung out a lot with them. And growing up, I had a lot of friends that were girls. And I didn't ever think of them differently. I played sports with them both. They were both like with guys and girls, like both phenomenal athletes. Like I remember playing once when I was like, on one soccer team, we played against a university team that was all females. And I think that was the first time I'd ever felt different playing against them, because I was like, oh, I just didn't want to be as aggressive out of just respect. But that was just, I don't know why. Like, that's just an odd statement to say anyways in itself. It really brings up, it's heightened my sensitivity towards equality, and especially recognizing unconscious bias.
I can say confidently, I know there are male business owners on my street that don't have to have the same conversations and the same constant conversations as I do. And maybe I'll just...
Yeah. See, and I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And that's something that I think that we need to start having conversations. Much like what I'm saying is, I don't have all the answers. And I think people need to stop pretending like they do have all the answers and start listening more. And I think that, when I walk down, not just like, 176, but when I go anywhere with any of our clients and I meet these female like business owners, I'm just in awe of them, because they're so incredible human beings. Again, because I get the chance to get to know who they are while I'm there with them and while I'm working with them, what they do is just secondary to me. But it's phenomenal. When I get to know who they are, I'm like, well, of course, this is what you do, because you're an amazing human being.
Right.
I wanted to ask though, like, now that you've had it, now that where you're at in your life with the heart, what's one thing that you wish you'd have known at the beginning that you know now?
That the community was coming and that they were going to carry me through whatever storm I got myself into, whether I put myself there or the world put me there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I could have just known, like, yeah.
So was there, so when you say that, then what was some of those first years like for you?
Really, really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. I mean, there were nights, I was physically sick a lot.
Yeah. Who would have thought, eh?
Tyler was amazing. I couldn't actually operate without him being home. Whether that was like the simple things like brushing my teeth and getting to bed. My body would just freeze. I was crippled with anxiety over failure, over losing my house, over not making enough money to... the thing about my business is Tyler he's a blue collar job, and we are a 2-income house, and we took a risk and we needed my income to function. Like it wasn't just like, oh, Annie, open a cutesy little store and do your thing. No, like we really needed for me to have an income. So it was so scary. It was so scary. And I wish I was more honest about that and telling that story as it happened, because I wasn't.
Do you think it was
brave, but like once again I go back to, it was my resiliency that pulled me through it, like, because that is one thing that is so ingrained into me, especially from my dad. Like, almost to a fault, you just keep going.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you say that, I'm sitting here with a back that's killing me because my body's been shutting down, telling me that I can't keep up at the pace that I'm going at. But my mind thinks that it can or not. And I'm trying to be more and more honest. So when I'm around people that are honest, even you sharing that you wish you'd have been more honest in the beginning inspires me a lot. You do have a phenomenal community.
Yeah.
That community, it's one of the things that...
like, shout out to my sweethearts. Do you even know who my sweethearts are?
Your sweethearts?
Yeah.
No.
It's like I have an amazing like community on Instagram, etc., and like the people in my life, but I actually have like a private Facebook group called My Sweethearts.
Yeah, that's cool.
And there's over 1,000 of them in there, and they help me make my big decisions.
Yeah. You know, it's good. Yeah. See, that to me is phenomenal. And I've said for the longest time, I've told people, people would get, especially when we're meeting with clients and we're talking to them, and people get really, really hung up onto, again, being the coolest kid in high school. So they get hung up on things like, well, I need to have the coolest clothes.
I was not cool. Let's just get that out there. So if you're a young girl that doesn't feel cool, it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So people would get hung up on the cool clothes, the cool car, all the stuff that, again, it was do. It had nothing. And then in the end, it had nothing to do with who they are. And one of the things that I recognized early on, and this is something that we followed through inspiration, even in the band times, was we'd rather have 100 truly engaged friends, engaged fans, engaged community, than 15,000 that are not engaged at all. And I've carried that on, and we've continued to build our with Search and Rescue marketing agency. And we 100% believe that. And I mean, I've had the chance to see people that said they have crazy followings that actually have absolutely zero engagement. And there's a reason. And it's interesting because when people come to me with no engagement, it's usually their community's telling them something. I don't know you. Why are we going to talk to you if I don't know you? It's great that you're just sharing everything that you do, but you clearly don't need me in your life. And so I'm going to go somewhere else where somebody, there's a community for me. And that's one thing that I've wanted to ask is, I think with you, there's certain things that we've talked about, there's certain things that I've seen, but I really see empathy as something in your business as a key to why you've been so successful. Do you kind of feel that way?
Yeah. Empathy and just love. There's just so much love, and empathy, I think, can go with love.
Yeah.
But and celebration.
Yeah.
It's not all about me, and so we celebrate so many things within the community. I do care so much. I had a woman she got dressed up to go get her vaccine last week, put a dress on, and she came into my store to buy herself a bag to celebrate.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
In our 10 years together, I can't count how many things you volunteered for.
Oh, gosh. Sorry. I can't help it.
Yeah, but I think that's partly too, though. So going back to getting to know you a bit more and now understanding where you came from a little bit, hearing you share a little bit, it makes sense. Right? And that's the thing is that when we get to know people, I do want to support great people, right? And I want to be a part of it, and they inspire me and they encourage me. And I think that's the thing that makes, the community so awesome is that we know you love not only the community that you're in, but surrounding communities, the things that you're involved in. You do it because you have a kind heart and you love doing those things. And we want to support those people.
Oh, the love coming. I have so many stories of the love coming back. It's crazy. You just put a little bit out there and your life will change.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think, do you think that maybe a bit, you say putting a bit of love out there, maybe that's also too, not just your community, but just communities in whole, just saying, maybe they're not hearing it enough in their own life. Maybe, what if you're that only glimpse of encouragement and love?
I know for some people I am. You should see the conversations in my
That's
DM
so
box.
Cool. Yeah. It is one of those things that I know purely that you do love your community, and you do, and it's not just a fluffy.
It's because I love people.
Yeah, and even the word love. So again, going back to love, if I, we were talking earlier about core values, and I do know that that's one thing that is one of your core values. But again, going back to the definition to me of seeing that quality in action, we all see it in action, so we know it's real. And that to me again is because at the core of who you are a very loving person, a very giving person, a very caring person. So to me, yes, that's what I would assume would be at the core values of the heart, because I would just assume that. And you'd be able to then see it, feel it, experience it online with the community, with the sweethearts, and then in person. That's how it should be. That's what makes businesses so successful. So when people don't see success in their business, when it's out of balance in those areas, usually your community is telling you just need to take a listen. Sit back, take a listen, go, maybe I need to reevaluate. If I'm saying that we have equality but we don't, maybe my community smells it out. And if I'm saying I'm so generous and I'm so this, maybe my community is sniffing us out. And maybe if I'm selling instead of actually just engaging and being real, maybe my community is. And I think that's one thing that I've appreciated. That's, amongst many things that I've appreciated about you, but I definitely think it's so cool to see. I get inspired by business owners who are not only passionate about what they do, passionate about, seeing the people that work for them thrive and be able to be themselves, fully themselves at work. I go back to that, how you mentioned that one comment about how you said that you were able to just say, listen, I just need to take time off too. I'm like, oh, I wish I got to learn that better. Cause I just think that's so cool. Cause again, it's something that you mentioned that aspect.
I had to break though, Matt. Like it didn't just like, I can't say I got there proudly. Like,
that's okay. You got there.
Yeah, I got there.
That's
but
okay.
it's not like...
My back is seizing on me trying to get me there. So
Annie figured it, like, I had to get broken first.
Yeah. But I just think that I loved when you said that, people come through the door and it's like, and you don't know what kind of day they're having.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things for you is that, like, I don't know, I look at, like, we come into a store and usually it's to purchase something. And how cool is that when they come into the heart, that what they're getting for free and not purchasing it is just love. That's fucking awesome. And to me, that's like, I think that would be something that every business would find so much more success if they genuinely treated their community that way. That when they realized, when people are coming.
Yeah, but not everyone is that person, so then it wouldn't be genuine.
Yeah, you're right.
So you can't, that's not traditional business.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got me thinking now. Because now there's got to be a way, though, that we could engage in those. Because I know even for myself, like, I definitely had some times where people would ask me how I'm doing, and like when I'd show up to a shoot or something like that, and they go, "How are you?" And I was like, brutally honest, was like really struggling. And this last year, I've like cried between shoots more than I've ever cried in my life. Come home and it's like feeling super down because now I'm not the dad and the husband and the friend that I want to be, and they're getting the worst of me, and that's what I was feeling at least. And so I'd show up to shoots and people are like, "How are you?" And I'm like, I don't know, not good. Just struggling. And they're like, and you could just see people shut down and other way. And I was like, shit, now I can't be honest because like I'm not gonna lie. Exactly.
Should I have lied to them so then they felt better about their day and we didn't have to,
Well, and when you ask that question, you have to make sure you have space to hear it. You know?
I don't have that space sometimes, so I don't ask how you're
exactly,
doing.
Josh. Like.
Yeah, you're right. See, I'm trying to learn the healthy balance there. Don't ask it if I don't have that space. That's a really good. Because I know even the other day, I came home and my daughter was like, "Why are you sad, Dad?" And I was like, "Holy!" Like it took me a second, and I was like, I had to sit and think about it for a bit. I was like, "Shit, man!" Like my 7-year-old recognizes that I'm sad, and so I had to sit and talk to her and like explain to her like why I was sad.
Your 7-year-old, I would expect, would notice that you were sad before some 45-year-old.
Yeah.
Like really.
But you notice it when your community, you've probably gotten to know your community so well that when some come in, I can guarantee that something's up with some of them.
Oh, for sure.
And that though, it's interesting because it's, sometimes it's like reevaluating too when businesses like, oh, like, how when you'd fill in like, say you're filling in a form for your business or something, they'll ask, what category are you in? And it's always hilarious because I'm like, well, that's ridiculous to answer because it gives you such generic categories to answer.
I'll say, have you read my Instagram? Have you checked out my Instagram?
Yeah.
I always like make a joke out of it.
It's so funny because like you almost want to say sometimes too that like there's certain businesses that to be honest I want to throw in there counselor that there's more, I don't know, does that make sense when I say that? Like, it's like you throw in there that you're not only selling goods and you're selling this, but you're actually a place where people come and their spirits feel. I notice that in a lot of businesses that I go into.
Well, the Heart started not as retail, right? It was a space of connection and gathering. So, I don't know if you even know
I didn't
that.
actually know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it was, the retail part of the Heart was as big as this room.
Was it just the front?
Yeah.
Wow, you've grown so much. Okay, so go. I didn't want to ask because I figured everybody would ask how it started, but
yeah, no, and you know what? I actually realized I don't talk about it a lot. I'll write a little post about it, but no, it was a gathering space. I wanted to bring people together. That was the whole intention of the Heart. So the back was actually like the huge back area was just a giant harvest table, like. I don't know, 14 feet long harvest table, and small businesses would gather there, have lunch, whatever. And then the front was the retail, really just to kind of help pay the rent. So it was a space of gathering. That was the primary function.
That makes so much sense. Oh my goodness. So then how did it progress slowly, just step after step, it was like, was it a foot
It
of extra
wasn't. It wasn't. Well, the storefront grew a little bit into that space, but it still wasn't the primary function. It was an event and gathering space, and then COVID happened. The storefront closed, so I used that whole back area for orders and managing that. After I let go of my staff, it was just me in there anyways, and no customers were coming in, so it didn't matter what the store looked like.
Yeah.
And I obviously, when we opened again in, what was it, June, we still couldn't gather. So we were like, well, customers want to shop, the store is staying busy, so let's expand the store space so people can socially distance. And then I was like, well, if I'm expanding the store space, I have to bring in more inventory. I can't just have empty shelves. And that was really scary. Let's make a big investment into inventory during a global pandemic when cash flow is already a scary thing.
Yeah.
And that's how it happened.
Man. And do you and your main tool then that you use for communication is Instagram? Is that your main? And Facebook? Instagram, Facebook? Do you do any selling on Instagram?
What do you
Like Instagram, like do you do any like with the marketplace or anything?
Oh, like marketplace? No.
No.
I don't know why I personally use marketplace on Facebook, but no.
No, I'm just curious because it's like I know that it's something that helped a lot of businesses out through COVID was just especially because Instagram, they don't want you to leave the app, so giving the opportunity to purchase things right then and there.
Oh, sorry, my Shopify is integrated into Instagram.
Never mind.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So during COVID then, when that happened, like did you notice your community's engagement go way up, down?
Like skyrocketed.
Skyrocketed.
Yeah, and I had a lot. I think I did like 3 or 4 news interviews during that short period of time. So I had people calling me all day saying, I just saw you on the news. I really liked your story. How do I support you?
Oh, that's cool.
I had people trying to start GoFundMe accounts when the pandemic started. And
Wow.
I was like, absolutely not. Like, there is far bigger things that need support right now. But thank you.
Yeah. How did those interviews come up?
I don't know. My DMs.
That's
Some
cool.
of my shoppers I know are definitely work in that industry. So I think we're just kind of
That's the joys of a community.
trickled through and
Yeah, looking out for each other. That's true. It's so cool because I know that it was inspiring to watch on the other end of it, watching that engagement, because it was always neat to see what you were posting, how you're posting, what you were sharing. And it's well, the cool thing for me is I wear a couple hats. Number one is like as a community, I'm part of that community as well, and then also as somebody
you're not
who
a
is
sweetheart, Matt.
yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
And then also I get to wear a hat as like a marketing agency, so I appreciate it because there's so much that you have taught me as well, and then there's things as well, like much like how. I am that guy that stays up super late at night, always have been, like reading on Reddit and talking back and forth with people that are in the same industry as me. And I'm always trying to find out like new little tools and why are algorithms doing this? And what about that? And what did you try? And so it's neat because I'd see you doing things. I'm like, oh, I just read about that. And did you research how to do all those things, or did you naturally just go, hey, I'm feeling like I'm going to do this?
Honestly, all instinct. It's all just listening, like we talked before. Like, what do people need right now? There's one video that I actually just added to my reels now. It's me just dancing crazy, babe.
I saw it
What's
today.
the song?
I can't remember
Whitney
the song.
Houston. Oh my gosh.
Wait, what?
Higher Love.
Oh, great song.
Bring me a higher
And
love.
it was like, it had to be like during March when we were all really sad last year and really scared. And I heard that from my community, and I was like, you know what? They're looking at me right now. My engagement is huge. I'm just going to make people smile today.
That's cool.
So I did.
Yeah.
And so I just listened. That's what I did.
That's
what I
honestly,
do.
going
That's what I
back-
do.
That to me is absolutely like magical, because that's one of the things that like it's hard to teach people. There's difference too between listening and monitoring. Most people say that they listen, but they just monitor. They're monitoring for things like likes and what hashtag worked and what this. And
I don't even hashtag. I just,
there's purpose to that, but there's also more like that's why a lot of times, even for me, and people can't stand that I say it, but I'm constantly trying to just push down their throat. It's like, please, like just be you, quirky, weird, funny, whatever that may be. Just be you.
Yeah.
But do it 100%. So make sure that you're transparent, you're empathetic, you're authentic, and then you don't have to try. Like actually creating content is, especially when you're listening to your community. So that was cool that you shared that, because that's something that I always enjoy watching what's on there because I like to see as well. It inspires me because I do know that I get quite a bit from people. Like they hear me saying as somebody who's a part of an agency, like, why are you're always telling us to post and create content, but you're not doing it yourself.
And it's so funny,
And-
I don't even like think about creating content either. Like people will have, and I know this is your business, but people will have like content creation days
Yeah.
where they and a lot of businesses need that. I'm not discounting that at all, but I don't have those. I wake up and I think of something.
You are the brand.
Yeah. Which is
That's-
a blessing and a curse, but
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about it is that people get hung up with brand, and they can sometimes think of it as like, and I'll say this to any client is they'll say nobody actually cares about your font, nobody cares about the color of your logo, nobody cares if your logo looks like this or they don't care about that stuff. What they care about is you, and that last experience they have. So when you're not there, whatever experience they have with whoever is there at the heart, that's the brand. So those things are important. So when you talk about, you being vocal with your staff and you being vocal with your community, that's the importance of why, like today, like I feel honored that I'm getting a chance. There's lots of things I did not know about you that I've gotten a chance to get to know, and it starts to make sense why you are the way that you are. It's so cool. And it allows, those people then when they see those things on your social media, when they see those things on a podcast, when they meet you in real life, when they meet your staff, like it's fluid. That is them. I know who they are. So when people, I've had people reach out and say like, yeah, when I was going to get a pair of jeans, I was like, well, is this company really into equality? And like, do they have this? And they want it's just a pair of jeans, but it isn't just a pair of jeans. We want to support. And I think this last year and a bit with COVID has also brought that up as well, is that we want to go out of our way to support those that are good humans. And that's one thing that I love that you said you just wake up and do it, because that's something I wish that I could tell people, that you just know that it's a part of your job description. Just tell your story. You wake up, there's a story to be told at all times.
Yeah, well, we're all storytellers, right?
Yeah.
It's just whether we tell them or not.
That's awesome.
We all have a story, I should say.
So that kind of helps me segue into the good-hearted human. And that's something to me that I felt terrible that actually, in an aspect, I felt terrible, but also was super excited that my shirt was dirty tonight because it means that I use it a lot. My girls, we wear ours all the time proudly as a family. My girls love theirs. And it's something that I'm excited for hearing about it, how it got started. And I don't know, like for those of you that may not know what it is, I would love for you to give share a little bit of background on the good-hearted human.
Yeah, I've never really shared much background on Good-Hearted Human, which is kind of crazy because it has been so successful without me really explaining who or what or why.
Yeah.
But I think that also just speaks to my community once again, and their support and their love and their dedication to keeping me around, I guess. But it was really born about, what day is it right now?
Today's 26th.
April 26th. So this exact day last year
Really?
was my first. I texted my friend Ashley and I said, I've made this sweater. I need a picture of it because I have to start selling it. And she met me in Cloverdale and took a picture today.
No way.
Yeah. So it was actually a Sunday last year. But yeah, so happy
awesome.
1 year.
1 year. Well, congratulations.
Yeah. But really, I've always wanted, since I started The Heart, I wanted a branded apparel, something that kind of told my story. I didn't want to just make a sweater with something on it. Everything I do, I have intention. So that was really important to me. But I just kind of kept like, don't have time, busy, like first year of business, can't do that. Who would buy it? Who wants to support this? Like, that's later, Annie. I just kept telling myself that. But then in March, when COVID happened, closed the store, something we all learned was supply chains and shipping and everything was starting to shut down. Warehouses were closing.
Yeah.
So I had customers, but I didn't have any inventory. Nothing was coming in, right? So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the time. I need to put some thought into this. So I started drawing. I called on my friends. I knew that it needed to be heart-focused. I thought about all of the people in my life that have kind of gotten me here And that's kind of how I landed on Good-Hearted Human. It was, who do I want to be? Who do I aspire to be? What is my community? What are they telling me?
Mm-hmm.
It's Good-Hearted Humans. That's like, it's just so obvious. So one of my friends helped me design the first logo. We picked a sweater, printed it, and it was like instantly a sellout, which was crazy. And that's kind of how the miniature version of where it started.
Mm-hmm. I know that when my wife and I saw it, we're like, "Oh, that's awesome!"
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of cool because we didn't know the story.
Yeah.
I just saw it come, and it's interesting because we both talked. We're like, "Oh, that could be intimidating wearing that."
So
That's my first.
So this is interesting to me, and people will say that they're like, "Do I buy it for myself?" And for me, this is my personal take. When I gift it to someone, it's almost like a badge, a thank you for being this person
cool.
to me. When I wear it for myself, it's kind of two things. It's a reminder for me that the world around me needs this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a reminder to those people that I'm a safe place.
That's a cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like my block watch in a way, you know? Like,
I do like that.
when I see it at Save on Foods or whatever, I'm like, that's a good person.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that I crossed the street to get a coffee the other day, and I looked over as I was waiting for my coffee, and there was somebody where I could see the back, Good Heart, and I was like, that's awesome. And
You
it's
just
true.
feel good.
It just felt good. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
told them, like, when my wife and I were talking about it, they were like, it's, like, when I walked around, it felt like it was like, I need to, like, you know, because to me, a heart has all the feelings. And a good-hearted human, it definitely was. I felt like I was like, oh, it just made me want to be a good human being.
Exactly.
And so when I wear it, it's a reminder to me. Like, and it was like, because I remember we talked, it was like, well, could it be intimidating? And I remember, I think we were both, I can't remember who said it, but we were like, yeah, like I love that aspect of the block watch as well. That is like super, super cool way of putting it. Because I do think that it's a good reminder to people that it's like, there are good people
and
out
it's
there.
a connection point, you know?
Yeah.
You see someone and you're like, you're part of my story. You just,
Yeah.
there's an instant connection.
Yeah. That's awesome. So where do you see it going?
So many places.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to start to see soon more of local collaborations
Oh, cool.
incorporating this. But I really want to start. We're going to do one more crew neck, probably the week that this comes out, I guess. This one. And then I really want to start using it for some social impact. So some fundraising, some contributions to wherever my community wants that to go.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, so that's cool. So you would actually ask them where they're interested in.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. That's one thing I love about you is that.
It's not my story anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about the brand is this isn't like everyone wants to know Annie's story behind Good-Hearted Human, but it's almost irrelevant now because it's all of our story. So that's not a decision for me to make.
Yeah. I like that though, because it's something I remember. I mean, to me, it was kind of, people would ask me all the time about, say, lyrics that I'd written. And they would tell me their interpretation of a song I'd written, and I did not.
And you love it.
Oh, I loved their interpretation. I was like, holy shit, I wish that would have been why I wrote the song.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that you need to hang on to that because it is absolutely beautiful. And I love that it means something to you. And then it made me realize how other things in my life, I've done that to other things as well. And how maybe I don't want to find out, blah, blah, blah's explanation because it means something
know,
so
and
impactful to me.
That's been a big hesitation of me. People won't be disappointed. It comes from a really beautiful place. But I also there are entire daycares and preschools of teachers wearing these. I know there's wards in the hospitals wearing it has so much more meaning than even I can begin to explain.
That's so cool.
Yeah, which is so cool.
So there's schools.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
And
then I'll have parents coming in and saying, I saw the teacher wearing this. Is there one for my kid? Can I get
it.
It's so cool.
You know what the cool thing too is that it's because I know we've talked about it with my girls, and I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. Well, the 7-year-old is turning 8 in 2 days, so 8 and 3.
Yay,
and it's
happy
interesting
birthday.
how those ages understand. So when we talk to them about
well, they are this. They are.
Oh, purely.
Yeah.
To the purest of pure, right? And in fact, my 3-year-old right now is the best teacher for me on healthy balance. That girl knows how to, like, when she sets up a balance and she's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like right now, the big one is she just doesn't want to wear clothes. She's winning.
I remember
And
that.
she's very good at it. And she's not afraid of hurting my feelings. She's not afraid of, it's phenomenal. I can barely say no to certain things and people in my life without the guilt getting me. It is phenomenal what she's teaching me and what my 8-year-old is teaching me. And it's interesting when we talk about good-hearted humans, we talk about what that even means. And it's neat to hear them share. So that's so cool to me when you talked about like teachers and this, because we all have a different story. It all means something different to each one of us. And I think it's phenomenal. I'm so stoked that you've done this. Like my family, on behalf of my family, we proudly wear ours.
Yeah, that's
No, my
amazing.
daughter will wear it and she'll like kind of lean over. That I posted on TikTok the other day because Emma was walking on a log and it was like absolutely gorgeous, and she just kind of looks over with a smile because she knows.
She knows.
And she proudly wears it, and I absolutely man, I wish I could wear it as purely as her.
And I even have a hard time saying like thank you, because I genuinely feel that it's actually hers. Like I'm not thanking her for wearing her thing, like it's, which is cool.
I think, what's interesting, as you've been talking like this whole time, one of the things that reminds me a lot of my wife is that, how can I say this? I'll talk about my wife. She's just so real and pure, and it's beautiful, and it can actually come across as like people like how could I say this? It's so hard for me to like formulate like what I'm trying to, like what my heart's feeling, but it's like when you see something, you're like, are they really that nice of a person? You are. And my wife is, and a lot of good-hearted humans, there's a lot, and it's going to continue to spread. And that's one of the cool things that, one of my goals today was just to get to know you a little bit more. I was like, man, I knew I was going to like get emotional and like want to talk to you forever about things. But I was like, I didn't want to just go like, whoa, and like die. But ultimately, you are a very, very good human. And so I'm super proud to have you in our community and leading things like this and encouraging people and inspiring people. And I know that you do it from a genuine place. And
but I'm just a product of my community also.
Yeah.
Right?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm still proud of you.
Thank you.
And it's like, and it's cool. And I also have to say, like, I would love to have gotten into some more conversations, which I think we will have like off camera, but talking about like, I am just so curious of the world of being a female entrepreneur. And that stuff that to me, man, it just gets my like I have to be careful. It's interesting. I've never really been into fighting till I had girls, and in a family that I cared for immensely, and it was like, man, if you touch them, I've never felt red in my life.
Sure, yeah.
Where it was like, oh wow. And so when I've been a part of I've had the honor of being able to photograph some amazing conferences over the years where they've had it's been like I'm the only guy amongst thousands of women that are there, and it's like having people from all over the world. And I'm bawling the whole time, and I'm like, this is the life that I want from my daughters.
Yeah.
And it's going to start with me. Like in my life, making conscientious choices every single day, being purposeful in every single thing that I do, which is why I get so excited to talk to you and to talk to other people, and like why even this podcast excites me, getting to get to know people like we talked about with, why other podcasts inspire us is to push ourselves and to not just stay in the same place. And it excites me to know that like our, the future that we're setting up is going to be littered with good humans, and not just good humans though that are fake good humans that are pretending that they're shit together. I'm talking real good humans that actually have no guilt whatsoever to say sorry, but today I need to go home. Fuck, I wish that like I was there, and I'm trying to get there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm getting there.
But I really have to drive home. I didn't get to that point proudly. And I think that that's really important. It's not like Annie just magically figured it out. I still struggle. I still have painful back days. I still, I haven't figured it out. I just,
I didn't think it was going to be a very easy,
no.
Yeah.
And I don't think you ever fully will figure it out. I don't believe in balance. That's something I get asked actually a lot is, Annie, how do you do it all? And I want to scream from the rooftops, I don't. If my business is doing really well, I probably haven't spent enough time with Tyler. Our house is probably a mess, and I'm probably not doing well emotionally. if my business isn't doing very great, I'm probably seeing people and having better connections. So like people that say work-life balance, or like, I don't know if it's a thing.
It's tough, eh?
Yeah, something's always got to give. Like you're not going to be like this ever. That's balance. It's gonna one way or the other.
Yeah, it's such a delicate. Well, we're learning every single day. That's kind of the thing for me is I don't want to. Every year of my life, I'd like to, I constantly want to be evolving and want to be learning, and I don't want to look back and be like, oh, I'm the same guy I was last year or the year before. And I think that actually starts with us as individuals and seeking out those things. And I think that that's where you're right. Like balance is challenging because I'm
like, is it even like, should we just get rid of that? Like challenge, is it actually achievable? Is there a symmetry?
Well, I have hope for it, but I definitely think that there's a level of
or finding peace in this, like maybe it's more about finding this rhythm than it is finding this rhythm.
And it'll change before you know it. So like you can't be chasing something that's like, if you expected it to go one way and it's going another way, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You're just gonna have to adjust your expectations.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely don't have the answer for that. That's why I'm trying desperately to, because I know for myself that I'm definitely a workaholic. I can work and work and work. I also am one that I cannot start something and then not finish it. I've got to finish it. I am not satisfied with good. It's got to be great. I got to do my very, very best to make it great. And I also know that I want to lead by example. But then when I see, like, yeah, man, that's okay. You got me just definitely thinking, because now, again, like I said, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm just so curious. I love hearing people's thoughts on things like that, because I know for me, I definitely, and I think I've shared this with you in the past, that I've struggled like with shit at sleeping. And I've learned, actually, which is the cool thing, is that I've learned now from Dax Shepard, actually, because he was sharing on his podcast that he used to be in a deal with insomnia. And then he so proudly, like that was his kind of cool, quirky thing that he would like share it with people. Yet he was like, actually, I'm not an insomniac anymore. So he's like, I should stop saying that, because it was just, he was enjoying saying it. I'm kind of butchering how he said it. But I realized in my life that when I dealt with the insomnia, like, and it was bad, like hospital and really, really sick, I had to make some major changes and went through counseling and some therapy and discovered what was causing the stress that was causing it. My body was literally screaming at me. And then when I dealt with the stress, I slept. And from that day on, though, I was so nervous. To this day, there's still that little tiny piece of me that's like, you got to follow this same little pattern before bed or you're not going to sleep. And I hate that.
Yeah.
So for a while there, it was marijuana, where I was like, oh, I'm just going to smoke up a little bit. And it put me to sleep.
And then it stops working.
Yeah.
And then you move on to something else and it stops working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets scary, because I was actually also super nervous of getting addicted to a rhythm and a pattern of what I needed to do to go to bed. And I didn't want to be that person.
Yeah.
So I worked on lots of things, and hilariously enough, and this is something I don't think I've shared with anybody except for, say, my brother-in-law and my wife, is that every single night to this day before bed, I listen to Seinfeld. And I put it on, and it's funny because my brother-in-law and I got into it when it was during the Olympics, and we lived with him downtown, and we were shooting for like the Aboriginal Pavilion. So we lived downtown for about 6 weeks. And every night, like, we were working both so my wife and I had moved downtown there, and we were living with him in his 1-bedroom apartment on Burrard. And we were working crazy hours just because it was the Olympics. It was nuts.
Yep.
And at night, when we would finish, we would have a drink, we'd watch some Seinfeld, go to bed. And we ended up watching like every season. And then it became so much, I just did not care about the content. See, and that's the thing I've realized with my mind too, is if I don't shut down, like even when we do these podcasts, on podcast nights, I rarely sleep after, because my mind is just going.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed of all the things that I said and that I didn't say. Like my mind just keeps going, and I think of all the things I wish I would have said, or if I would have listened more. I was cutting people off and I was rude, and I just feel like I don't know. I just want my girls to be proud of me. And so to this day, I put on Seinfeld because I don't think about it. And it's interesting because I will go to sleep, and the next day I'll wake up and go, I only got 2 minutes through Seinfeld, and I was out.
But
like
that's
a light.
an anxiety coping method, is people with anxiety often like to watch shows that they know the ending for because there's no suspense, there's no surprise.
There's nothing. Yeah.
It's
I don't
just
even,
a
to be honest,
show.
I don't even watch it. I just have it on. So I put it on.
Right, but
and
because you
listen.
know it's just
Yeah.
Does it
sign.
affect your sleep, Matt? Like, do you have like a Seinfeld dream?
Nothing.
ever?
Nothing.
It
No.
doesn't even register. It's like
Nothing.
Noise.
No, it doesn't even register. It's a white noise. And it's interesting because I always, it's interesting because I used to say almost in a negative way. I was like, my entire life as an artist, music wakes me up. Always has. Still to this day, wakes me up. I don't really dream ever. If I do, it's usually a vivid, oh shit, like
Yeah,
something.
I'm a crazy dreamer.
Are you?
Should
Can you
I
share one, Annie?
get to
Yeah,
sleep?
Let's do it.
But
I want to hear it.
my dreams,
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
they're actually like pretty sad. So I don't want to talk about my
Oh.
dreams. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just not even go there.
Okay. But so you wake up exhausted. Yeah.
Should I actually sleep?
Should
But,
you? Okay.
yeah.
So should you sleep? So that's where, to me, I was trying to break myself out of habits because when I was going through the insomnia, of course, every single doctor was like, you need to do this, this, this. And there's all these things they talk about. No screen time. Try, I was
I get
running
it
through
all.
our streets. My wife remembers being terrified for me. I was running up and down our streets at 3, 4 in
To
the morning.
exhaust yourself.
I could not exhaust myself. And I was not going in our room don't go into your room until you're actually exhausted. I'm like, well, now I just stayed out of my room all night and the sun's back up and I'm just going to go straight to work
We're
again.
just gonna continue.
And
on.
it was just until I ended up in the hospital and then the doctor's like, okay, he's sick. And that's when I realized I needed to change a lot of what was going on in my life. And still to this day, that's why I so passionately try my best to listen to others and what they've gone through and what they've learned so that I can try to bring those things into my life and see if some help. So going back to this thing with Dak Shepard is that I realized what was happening was I was still thinking almost like I was an insomniac, but I actually have no problem sleeping now. So I need to stop saying that because I was almost not even giving my tomorrow a fair chance.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I was already telling my tomorrow that because of my past, it's like, well, that's so I guess I'm not going to sleep. And it was like, no, so I actually have to say that I am proud of myself that I've definitely overcome it. There's still challenges, don't get me wrong. When I'm stressing about things more than others, even right now with my back, it's been really freaking me out because of course right away is anybody that I've always been hypersensitive of my body. So instantly I was like, okay, my back is sore and then I could feel it go down in my groin. So now I have testicular cancer.
Yeah.
Now I should go back to the doctor, but that would be my 10th visit in a month that I think I have testicular cancer. The doctor's going to laugh at me again and go through it's like my mind just
Yeah.
spirals and all those things. So I'm like, okay, breathe. So here I am in bed, just breathing. Seinfeld's on. It's all good to go.
It's okay.
My daughters are sleeping. My wife is asleep. We live in British Columbia. We're very blessed.
And then there's another trick that I've learned
I'll
is
learn any.
I tell myself, if I don't fall asleep tonight, I've still made it here today.
Yeah.
So I'll make it to the next night. Okay.
that's
It
awesome.
might suck, but I'll still get there. So that's another way I trick my brain.
Yeah.
Like,
Our brains don't get tricked too often, though.
no.
So you struggle too, hey?
Major. Yeah.
I used to struggle.
Yes. Good catch.
I'm trying.
Catch. Except for tonight that you won't go to sleep.
Tonight I won't. No, tonight I won't. No. But I had a crazy, after I got the vaccine that night, I had a crazy vivid dream. And it was but I was going through a fever. So that was I hadn't had that in forever. It's been wild throughout COVID that, when my daughter hit school, we've had permanent colds and sickness in our house since she goes to that.
Of course.
Well, now that she's been at home since COVID started, we've had no
Nothing.
sickness. And I'm like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
In fact, it's so interesting. But my wife's like, I think we need to throw away this medicine we bought because it's gonna
expire.
We haven't even opened it.
Yeah.
But it was always like, oh, we got to keep children's Advil and children's Tylenol
I don't know if
on
that's
hand.
a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know.
I know. Have you learned any techniques though that? I'm a huge advocate for calming my heart. That's a big one. I talk to the girls about, and
Yeah,
easier said than done.
I think that it's also important to recognize, because I do have these conversations about sleep online, it's important to recognize when someone is struggling to sleep and when they actually have insomnia. And
I agree.
when you're struggling to sleep, I absolutely support all of the things you talked about, the screen time, the workout to where you all of that stuff, the meditation, the practice mindfulness. But then there's a line where you need help. And that is a really scary line to cross. So I think it's really important to differentiate those.
Yeah.
So I'm on the cross line. I have to have help sleeping. So I'm not going to sit here and be an extreme case and tell you just calm your mind. It doesn't work.
I know. Yeah.
So
no, that I completely agree with, which is why I'm trying desperately to not say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm in that space right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be okay with that. And I hope to get back to the other side one day.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I appreciate you sharing that, because it's like, I know that it's also, sleep is one of those things that, like, I researched like crazy.
It's your healer. It's the
Yes.
most important time of your day.
Yeah.
Breakfast isn't the most important thing. It's sleep.
I know. I told my daughters, is like, when I read when I was going through it all, and it made me feel even worse, right?
Oh my gosh.
Was when they're
now,
like, just so you know, that sleep should be called recovery. Because if you were to understand that it's recovery, you'd take it more seriously. I'm like, fuck, I'm doing everything in my power to try to sleep.
Yes.
And you're telling me this now. Like,
Yes.
it's, I love
taking
that you.
a bath, lavender candles.
Oh,
what do you
man. I love that you brought it up too, because I love that you brought up the aspect, because it was hilarious how regimented then my sleep pattern. Okay, so I wasn't sleeping actually, but how it was like, okay, Dr. Blah blah said I need to do this, and so I regimented absolutely everything I did, and none of it worked. And it was because of the fact that, again, the stuff I had to deal with was it had nothing to do with sleep in my experience. It had to do with my body shutting down because of stress. And then even then, to go farther, there was relationships in my life that were fucking toxic,
Yes.
that were destroying me. And I had made every excuse in the book that no, these people aren't that bad. They're really kind people. Like, and yet the relationships were telling me, I just didn't, like you said, listen. I didn't step back and listen. Then I felt even worse, because I felt like, what kind of a friend am I to my wife? And what kind of and I'm allowing these people into our lives. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And finally the body just went, I don't think so. And I thought I was smarter than my body, that I could just outdo it. And I always used to say stupid things like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Until I ended up in the hospital and was like, this is very humiliating and humbling. And the worst part was seeing my wife's face.
Sure.
Kind of like the other day when I took way too many gummies and was like, I'm going to throw up.
Way too many.
Oh,
How many?
I don't do, like, it's interesting because I've always,
Oh, gosh.
I have,
Like, it's not a plural thing.
yeah. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
So my back was killing.
Yeah.
I could barely do anything.
Yeah.
And it was like really frustrating me. I was like, you know what? Like, so I tried like 1, 2, then the bag was gone. And I was like, oh, it's not really working. So I'm like, the next day I'm going to try stronger. So 1, 2. And then I was like, all of a sudden, I'm going to throw up. And I was like, this is like, and I've always had an issue, unfortunately, where I guess having like red hair, apparently red-haired people respond differently to like medications and stuff. So things like when say growing up, if friends would smoke a joint, it's like I would smoke just as much as them, and I'd feel absolutely nothing. So to me, it seemed pointless. So when it came to things like even cookies, if somebody ate an edible, they'd eat 1 and they're wrecked for a day. I'd eat 3 and I'd be like, are we supposed to feel something? Like, just, it's always been that way. So unfortunately, this got the better of me. And my wife said I was just like white and sick. And I knew what was going on though. I said, like, I let her know and I said, I just need to lay down for a second. But she was, I messed up. I ate too many and she was terrified. That's to me the worst. Because I know what I'm doing and it's stupid, but I'm in control of it.
There's also a desperation point too, which
Yeah.
is so important when you're taking any kind of medication and when you're struggling. You reach a point of desperation, and I've definitely done this for sleep, where you begin mixing and taking things that you really shouldn't be, but you're so desperate for relief from pain or to get some sleep that you just don't care.
No.
You're
No.
like, whatever will give me a little, even if it's an hour of no pain or some sleep.
Or it's
right?
like, yeah, and then I felt extra guilted with like, my girls were just like both like, Dad, we've never seen you, like, we don't like you like this. And I was like, oh, because I felt like it was like a failure of like a healthy dad.
Sure.
And it was just like, oh man. And then I just realized, okay, no, again, going back to what you said, it's like my body was just shouting at me and screaming at me, and I need to be more attentive to it, and then also understand too how to listen to what it's saying, and then what do I do with it. Which is why I'm only 42% through that book, is because it's like one page at a time.
One page. It's a lot to digest.
It is. It is a lot to digest. So I do it like, I will say that like, just, whether we're recording or not, it's been really cool to hear even your perspective on things. Like, I love that you brought up a different perspective than I've ever thought about things like bravery, balance. That's one of the cool things to me about these opportunities, is to have conversations with people that are, again, like we've mentioned before, that are brave enough, if that's the wrong word now to use, but like that will come on and just be open and have a purposeful conversation, that we're not saying this is the only way to think about something. In fact, like, I enjoyed that you let me to throw something out there and you came back with another. To me,
And
that's
I kicked it back at
that's
you.
how we learn,
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that's
no,
how,
of
like,
course.
and I'm so stoked to go home and to have tea with my wife and to think like, hey, what do you think about that? And to push the thought and to keep it going and to try things, and to, I think that's what makes our world so cool and so inspiring, is that we all don't think, act, sound, and like, I love that.
Well, we're all required to make the world go round, right? Like, it's, I don't even have words for that.
No, but even how you mentioned to me, it was so cool to hear how you said like you were the community that raised you. And then it makes me want to have like a time machine to go back in time, because it's always one of those cool things just to see how people, the whole nature versus nurture and just who's around, and see who you were back then, and to see the influence and be like, oh my goodness, like that person's life, the influence in your life instigated, like it just put it in you to try that, and to try this way, and this person over there this way, and this person this way. And it's something that is really, I'm very aware of, because of the fact that I can't believe my daughters do things that I never taught them.
Well, that's the thing. You're influenced so greatly.
Yeah.
And not even just at a young age, at all ages.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I always talk about, is how you'll see people online say like, I'm not an influencer, or have those conversations. And I so strongly disagree. Every single human being on this planet is an influencer. Even you, Josh, just because you're not on your Instagram stories.
Josh.
Because you'll say, hey, Matt, I really like this beer. You should try it. You've been influenced now to try that beer. We've just kind of created this like, platform's the wrong word, but this role of an influencer, but we're all influential.
Yeah. And it's neat because as we get older too, we get to pick and choose too who we want to be involved in those influences. And that's something that's become more
Kind of.
kind of, yeah.
Like the environment
Oh,
is quite
true.
influential on us, wherever we might be, right?
It is true. And it is something to me, even, when you're talking about seeing stories and stuff and having influence, and those are friends too, that sometimes like, oh, this was a great dinner. You don't realize the effects that it has on you when it comes to actually picking a dinner, that does a lot more for the psychology behind why you'd choose to go to that place than to watch ads of things. But I know that like 98% of our day is ads telling us that, your life's going to be a lot better if you were just like this, doing this, eating this, walking here, wearing that, doing this, driving this, in Mexico. And,
Mexico.
but I do like, that's why one of the things to me that I get inspired of is seeing a movement of good-hearted human and encouraging people to continue on their journey in life and to surround themselves with people that breathe life into them versus, suck the life out of them.
Yeah.
And I know for myself that it's like, I really do enjoy being around people that charge my batteries and inspire me and challenge me. I don't want to have people around me that just think the same way as me.
No.
In fact, I often said like, people, before we had kids, I remember like, Sarah and I spent so long, working through counseling and like really diving into like our inner demons and like all that, just the stuff that we knew we had to deal with. Cause I knew that again, going back to that, I wanted to be great. I want to be a great dad, not just a good dad. And that meant that I was like super nervous. The world doesn't need another me. I was totally fine with the world, like having more Sarahs, like, because I adore her and I want to be more like her. But I wanted to make a conscientious choice to get out of the way of passing on my habits.
Sure.
The things that they're not me.
Yeah.
They're just stuff that like maybe trauma, whatever it may be, as well as like things that I think that's just who I am, when in reality it's just really bad habits, and I didn't want to pass those things on, and I knew that I needed to work on those things. And so I'm really proud of us actually that we did. And then it's interesting because then again there's stuff that comes up, I'm like, I thought I worked on this
They'll
stuff.
creep back up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a constant daily, and so I want to surround myself with people too that are just on a constant journey for being a good human. And that doesn't mean it's all shits and giggles and perfect.
No.
Right? Like, that's not what I
These
mean at
can
all.
be ugly days too.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things why, when I might have butchered it earlier, but I was trying to like say, like, one of the things that I've appreciated about you with your community is that you have been that. So when I say that, like, when I was saying that thing about, like, you've always had a great, a genuine smile, is, again, it's your eyes. So even if it is a tough day, your eyes aren't going to lie. And that's what I meant by that, is that, like, a good-hearted human is good at the core.
And I think what you're seeing is like joy, because I really believe that when you're grieving, when you're angry, and I don't say that in a toxic positivity kind of way, but I think because I feel my feels, and I'll let myself be really sad, and I'll feel like the world is crumbling, but I still just kind of hang on to that little bit of joy, and I think that that's just kind of that shimmer that never totally goes away. Even if I don't feel it, I think that's just what you see in people.
Were you like that as a kid?
I don't know. You'd have to ask someone. Because it's something you see, right? It's not necessarily how I'm feeling.
I just love it when you say I feel all the feels. I'm like learning more and more from my family and just from life in general that, like, that's something that, like, don't shy away from. Don't be afraid to say how you're feeling. I know we talked a little bit about that, but it's definitely one of those things that I'm allowing my feeling. Otherwise, my body's shutting down. So clearly, my body is saying, like, just even be vocal about it and share how I'm feeling with those that I trust. Yeah. And then learn how to manage it.
And even for me, sometimes I physically have to beat it out of me. Whether I work out pretty religiously, and sometimes I have to physically exhaust myself so I can then be present also. Like, it's not, I won't just wake up and be like, I need to get in tune with myself, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Yeah. Whether that's the most healthy method or not, I don't know.
No. But everybody's is going to be different. I know that it's, when I'm not active, it definitely changes things for sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate so much. Do you have? Sorry, you're gonna.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say that, like, we did kind of cover the story of the heart real quickly, but we didn't. You didn't really go from the beginning. And, like, one thing, like, for me, watching from the inside and outside of the experience, anyways. Like, I'm super proud to see how far you've come from the townhouse, starting with just prints, graphic prints and foils. Yeah. Right. And that's where it really started, just kind of her thinking, like, hey, maybe I can make these. It was for baby 1 month, 2 month, all the way up to the year-old.
No, babe, it was for Nicole's nursery, remember?
Yeah. Okay, well, it was for baby stuff, I guess. That's what I remember. Yeah. But that's just my husband making it a general vagueness. But it started all the way back then, and then went to mugs, right, with vinyl, if I'm correct. And then... Oh, now I'm getting nervous because I'm going to screw this up. And then it went from mugs to actually...
This better be right, by the way.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh.
Sublimation. I already screwed up the
No,
baby
you
thing.
forgot the gold foil, babe.
The gold... Well, that's right. Well, I did say foil. That was for the prints. Then she
It is a really important part of my story, for sure.
Yeah, because it started off just... Like, I remember you asking yourself if this could be something so many times.
I know.
Right? And... It's weird when you first started having people come and do pickups, and when we moved into, like, our house, when we had people come in and picking up the cups and the foil prints, and you upgraded to making, like, wooden signs. Like, I'd make you some stuff out of wood, and then you put vinyl on that, and then that started growing, and then you eventually got into actual sublimations of imprinting.
The heart really started as a craft business.
It really did.
Like it.
That's not even it, because it kept going from there.
No, it just kept going.
That is so cool.
And it's just signs, and then it got too much for, like, I know this is me telling you the story now, but it's basically there's too many people coming. You needed a place to do it, and then that's when it got to the.
So Tyler, how long was she doing it then out of your place? Before that.
Well, it felt like it was like a year and a bit.
Yeah?
It also happened fast. Like, she's crushing it. Like, she's been moving pretty quick.
And don't forget, like, I did all this while working full time and going to school.
Wild.
Like,
Yeah, it was a lot of...
Kind of a big deal.
It was kind of a big deal. Yeah,
Good
no.
luck.
That's incredible.
And congratulations, like that's something that you should be proud of. You were resilient.
Yeah, and there's a big piece there. Mostly because there are so many men and women, but there are so many. I immediately think of women, whether they're single and working or working and mom and crafting, but there's so many people that have this I really don't like the word hustle. So like people call it a side hustle, a side business, a small business, a really small business, whether they're making candles or they're making prints or you can see those really small micro businesses.
Yeah.
Like the heart where I employ people and serve people and live in the community every day all started like so small. It was something that I stayed up really, really late doing while I was working full time and going to school. So like there is possibilities. I'm once again a product of that really hard work.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm all self-taught. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's definitely a good.
You said that was something that your dad, he was like that as well? Like that hardworking.
Yeah. No, we definitely. I have workhorse built into me to a fault. Like it's almost more toxic than it is good, but I also owe him all of my entrepreneurial stick it through and get it done spirit.
I love it.
So it's like, thank you, Dad, and also like, what the hell, Dad?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, some of our last conversations we had together were surrounded in work less. You need to enjoy your life more. You need to go see the world. You need to not work so much and don't stress so much. And I just laughed at like, thanks, Dad. You put me here. So
Yeah.
A little late now.
No.
Tax me. I'm Canadian.
Oh, don't even get started. That was his favorite saying.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna ask, but I'm glad you said it after. I was like, wait, what, Tyler?
Yeah.
He wore a hat. He had this black hat, and it had yellow block writing, and it said it with a little Canadian flag, and it said, "Tax me, I'm Canadian."
Where did he get it?
Do
you remember?
He got them like custom made.
Oh, you kidding me?
Oh, when I was like, we're going back to when I was like 8 years old. Like,
oh my goodness.
yeah.
Trucker hats?
No, like dad hat
Okay,
style.
there we go.
Yeah.
Oh my.
No. Oh my gosh, no.
She had to wear tax my dad. He's Canadian.
Yeah, he was an entrepreneur too, so small business. He went through all of the crazy times. But
We could do another 2-hour podcast.
yeah, he's quite legendary for sure.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It is wild like that. Hearing that story, I love it because I can completely relate to it. So like I get very excited for stuff like that, and I think Josh is right. You should be totally proud. Like we're all proud of you. Like it's one of those things that there's a lot of people that have a lot of great ideas and a lot of great concepts, but it's one thing to have those things. It's another with all of what life brings to actually start putting them into
and to stick to it.
Yep.
Stick through the bad times.
Yeah.
And she's a true philanthropist. Like
Sidetrack.
Like she really is. Like she's so giving. You know?
Yeah, but that's also too like being able to adapt is a key component to being a successful entrepreneur, and it's one of those things that if you look at your path and even how he explained where you started to where you're at now, just all of the things that as soon as you said, even learning like software programs and stuff, I was totally the same way. Everything that I've learned came from learning from Sarah's brother, who's a genius at those things and does that as a career, or spending hours and hours and hours researching how to do those things. Yeah, because I was like, I got to be able to do this. And like that, it always has been that way. But it's also what's made us so successful in what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's also too why you then get this incredible knowledge and wisdom of behind the scenes of how things work. So then things make a lot more sense when you're making business decisions. That's how I've seen things, at least.
Absolutely.
Is that you're like, oh, I know how these things work now.
And you kind of have to go through that grit
Yeah.
to really
Oh, for sure.
Totally get it.
Oh man, there was times. It's interesting because I remember even Sarah and I, like, we've been talking to our financial planner and going through, and like we're still entrepreneurs, self-employed. We do not have a set income.
Yep.
It changes all the time, and
So
it
scary.
is
Oh, gosh,
hilarious
it's so
when they're like,
scary.
okay, so the financial planner's like, so he gives us a sheet. It's like, can you fill this out? We're like, well, we've just sent you the last 2 months of our finances, and you can clearly see that they are not even remotely close. So when I explained to him that, he's like, well, you have like a ton of clients, like just with blah, blah. I'm like, I know, but you gotta understand, some of them I'm on a 12-month pay cycle, so I don't actually see money for a year.
Totally.
He's like, well, wait a minute, what? So they're used to like dealing with people that have this is it. It's
9
this
to 5
yes.
salary.
And it's interesting because like there was times where we were living in a trailer. Like I can get into lots of stories like
for
where
sure.
it was like, we need to save money. Okay, well, we'll live in like this 10-foot trailer while it's blizzarding and snowing out, so that all of our money we're putting into like saving, because the bank won't give us money because they won't give any money to someone that's starting either a band or photography.
No.
And we need to buy all this stuff to be able to like start our business. And it's, I don't care about a vehicle, so we would drive the cheapest whatever vehicle we could because we had $50,000 in gear that we needed.
100%.
Excuse me.
My business is 100% self-funded also. Like
Yeah.
there was no bank assistance,
Yeah.
no nothing.
And it's
so.
and then it's like and then when people are like, oh, I totally get it, and they'd go into this explanation, I would try I would bite my cheek till it bled, and then just smile and walk away, because I was like, I just got to be so cautious of like, you don't actually get it. So
No.
when I hear of cool stories like this, makes me super proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
super
you.
super proud.
Babe, was that enough of the story?
Well, thank you so much for joining myself, for Tyler, Josh, Dave in the back. Thank you, because today was like, I was really looking forward to it. I really appreciate it, and I appreciated your honesty. It's very, very refreshing, and I wish that we could keep talking and talking. So I would love to do this again with you. So for those of you on YouTube that are watching this, where can they find you on Instagram?
At the Heart Cloverdale. Oh, just that. At the Heart Cloverdale. There's
Aw.
no .com on Instagram.
That's awesome. So make sure, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening, be sure to subscribe. Click the little button that has that little bell, because we want you guys
Ring
to
the
subscribe.
bell. Isn't
Ring the
that
bell. Ring the bell. That my
Yeah.
daughter's even better than me. Ring the bell.
Yeah.
Exactly. Smash the like button. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thanks
Really
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Cue the music.